I didn't think this happened very often, but I guess it does. The bottom bracket fails. And this is on the drive side. It is a chain, not a belt, cycling bike. Cost about $600, and for a comparable value, probably $400 to $500 to replace it. Let me go over my thought process here. We have several people in the family that like to use cycling bikes, so I have another one, an Echelon I just bought, and I'll post up here the link to that review. 2 of these make sense for us. The investment in repairing this thing is going to be around $55. I had to buy 2 separate tools, a tool to take off the pedals and then a tool to take the bottom bracket off. But I'm going to take it on as a challenge. We'll see how it turns out. If I post the video, I guess it was a success. You're going to need a bicycle crank puller. And trust me, I tried to do it without this tool and it just didn't work. And you want one that fits the square taper if the bottom bracket is like mine, but you're going to have to check it. With the square taper, you just use this piece, and if you use a splined ISIS drive, whatever that is, you have to put that piece in. It comes complete. You're going to have to figure out your spline on the bottom, and I'll show you that later. It says removal tool, but you also use it to put it back on. This is the place where I got my part. I called them up after hours. They got right back to me the next day. They sell all sorts of equipment. But the great thing is they have probably every part you need for all these different bicycles. Amazing. Short conversation. He knew exactly what part it was, and he sent it to me in the mail. And a couple days later, it was here. I've got the spinning wheel and these 2 wheels on the floor with the handlebars, and that gives me a really sturdy base to work from. This is actually the part of a broken plastic table, and I use this for all sorts of different areas if I don't want grease or dirt or cutting or whatever it is. So these are really handy for that. So I've got that sitting on there. If you don't, you can use a drop cloth to protect your carpeting or your tile or floor or whatever it is. Since this side had broken off, I needed to mount it in a vise. Now here is the crank puller. It comes with this piece here that I don't need for the square crank. So I'm going to back that out and then just put this in place. Got to line it up, and you want to make sure you don't cross thread this because that just leads to problems, but it will go in. But you want to screw it in as much as you can by hand. It's in there nice and tight. Far and as long as you can until you can't do it anymore, and then you just... Now it's getting a little tough. I'm using the pedal here to give me a tad bit of leverage. There it goes. Yeah, that's it. And there you go. That little cantankerous piece. I tried to hammer it out. No way. You need this tool. Now it's time to go and do the other side. Here we are with the pedal, and we've got this guy installed all the way, and we're just gonna do the same thing we did before. Run it as far as we can by hand, and then ratchet and pull the pedal off. You could use a crescent wrench on this, but if you want to use the socket set, you're going to need an adapter because most socket sets aren't that big and you need a 1/2 inch. So I guess you don't need the socket set. The crescent wrench will work if it's big enough. Bit of persuasion, I was able to get it to move. So it is clockwise. Sometimes it will say it's counterclockwise. Now you can order bottom brackets, the Park tool specifically, that has the handle on it, but it's thin. This is kind of beefy. This is one of my bigger crescent wrenches. And then once you get it to a certain point, it will come right off. So let's go to the other side and I'll show you how to take that one off. On this side, it's clockwise to tighten and counterclockwise to loosen. This is standard lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Here's the part I took off, and here's the part I'm putting on. You can see where it broke here. I'm not sure you can read this piece. 113 millimeters, but it's got the 1.37 inches, 24T. It's got a left and a right, and so therefore you know that this part is going to match that part, and hopefully it's going to work out. At this point, I'm pretty committed. Taking a clean rag and I'm going in here and cleaning this all out. You can see that I pulled a lot of grime, dirt. I want to make it as clean as possible. Now I'm going to grease it up to help facilitate the bottom bracket going in. Now, sometimes they say apply it to the threads of this. I think it makes more sense to apply it to the threads here. And I'm just using regular general purpose grease. And again, this is the crank side, so it's going to go in the opposite direction, counterclockwise to go on. So now it's all greased up, it's time to put the part in place, right side. You don't want to force the threads. Here I'm using the socket. And with the grease, it really goes on fairly easy. All right, down the end. Now, it says 35 pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can just kind of guess it. So this is a 1/2 inch drive, but it says 239. So I've got it set at 30. All right, pretty good. I guess I should have known this was going to come all the way out here like that. So I need to put this sleeve in. And as you can see, I'm not going to be able to put grease in there. So I'm going to probably have to grease the grooves up on this piece here. Again, just take a little bit, not too much. I'm going to do the inside. If it squeezes out on the outside, obviously you can just clean it up. It's not that big of a deal. Now some people will put Loctite on and things like that. You could always have another bottom bracket go. So I'm not putting Loctite on. This one, fortunately, was sliding in rather easily. So I'm going to hand put it in as far as I can before using the tool. And this time, I think I'm just going to start with the torque wrench because it gives me a nice advantage. Since I'm on this side, I'm going to put the pedal on. Again, put it on as far as you can without cranking on it. All right, that's pretty good. Don't want to over tighten it, don't want to under tighten it. You just got to get a feel for it. Now we'll spin it around and do the other side. Before I put the crank back on, I'm going to take the chain, clean it thoroughly, inspect it, make sure it's still good to go, and then I'm going to put some 3-in-1 oil, put on a rag, and then just run the chain through it. Okay, a little cleaner. Put some more oil on there and just do one more thorough lubrication. Go get a nice channel going. Most of this is going to go into the rag itself. If your chain does that, don't worry about it. It's common and it happens. I wanted to be able to put this on without having to break the chain. With this square situation, it's pretty easy to find the 180 degree or the opposite side. There we go. It's a little slack, but I think once you start putting it in place, it's gonna be wonderful. Just gonna take this bolt and put it in as far as I can by hand before I start cranking down on it. Let's do a quick check. Ho, ho, ho! The final test is the spin of the chain. It's got a little bit of slack, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. This area here
you can make an adjustment if need be. It seemed like it was a little skew, so I got in there, loosened this nut, and took an Allen wrench and just cranked it ever so slightly to get it back in alignment. That's about as much give as you want on a chain.
The last thing to do is test it out.
Now I'm just going to hit the friction knob to stop it. Yeah, that's pretty fluid. Looks like we got a repair. To put the cover on, it's easiest just to take the pedal off because there's some pretty tricky alignment in here. And then just put the various screws in. Might want to give it a couple throws to see if there's any rubbing. Doesn't appear to be any, which is good. Put the pedal on and you're good to go.
An hour later, once you got the tools and the part, it goes rather quickly. And you've resurrected a dead spinning bike. So you might be wondering, how hard is this repair? I would say if you have the tools, a crescent wrench, a socket set, it will go rather quickly. If you don't have those, you might want to take it to a bike shop, but it's certainly worth the repair. Around $55 for me because I didn't have those two $10 tools, and $33 for the part. But now I have pretty much a brand new spinning bike. Thumbs up and comments, always appreciated. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in home repairs, sports, and design builds of all kinds, check out my channel and please subscribe, because you never know what you're gonna see.